Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be continuing my series on Bitcoin, the trade of the millennium. Today I'm going to be talking about gold versus fiat government money and versus Bitcoin. In my previous video I talked about how Bitcoin was a monetary system, and today I'm going to be explaining the advantages to Bitcoin versus the government money and why it will win over government money. So all throughout history there have been many types of money. There has been seashells, glass beads, silver, gold, copper, and government money. And all of these monies always beat up against each other and compete against each other to take the market share of the global reserve money. And throughout history we have seen that the hardest money always wins. So whenever seashells competed against gold, was harder because it was more scarce and it was harder to produce, harder to find. And this led to gold overtaking shells, and this also was the same thing with silver. Gold beat out silver, and gold throughout history has beat out everything that we have ever used, strictly because it was an element, a metal that was durable, and we couldn't create more of it. It was the ultimate hard money for our civilization. So gold has won as the hardest money all throughout history, and the only reason that we use paper currencies and we trust the government today is because that the gold backed these currencies initially, and so that because they were backed by the gold, they were made scarce by the gold. But in the 1970s, we went off of the gold standard, and instead of trusting the scarcity of gold, we trusted the governments to make money scarce and not dilute the money, keep money hard. We trusted government to keep money hard, and throughout the last 50 years, they have not done this. So why did we stop using gold? Well, gold lacked in some important qualities such as portability and divisibility. So then we created paper money, and that represented gold amounts. And if these ever get lost, it's not too big of a deal. Or if they got destroyed, we could replace, the banks could replace the old notes with new notes, and then they could be easier to be exchanged. And this was also very beneficial when the internet came out, because instead of having to send your gold all across the earth and having to deliver gold from one bank on one side of the country to the other side of the country, or one country to another country, you could just digitally transfer digital representations of gold. So, and this became extremely popular and easy as we evolved with the internet, and extremely cheap, zero cost. And people forget the cost of transferring money before the internet. And so that is why government currencies dominated. Also, why the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world is because it was initially backed by gold. So other countries could trust the US dollar to be a good store of value because it was initially backed by gold. And then of course when we went off of the gold standard, since everything was already in US dollars, everyone has no choice but to trust the government of the United States government, and we were willing to trust the United States government to keep the paper money, hard money, scarce, and keep it scarce. And of course, nowadays they aren't scarce with their money, and it's kind of ironic how the Fed that controls the money supply is going to be the reason that everyone stops using the money, because they create so much more, and then this makes the money not as hard, and people will turn to an ulterior monetary system. Now, many people believe that we are going to go backwards and go to gold, because gold has been the store of value for thousands of years. However, I and many people believe that we are going to be going to Bitcoin. And this is because it has all of the good qualities that gold has. It is the hardest money we have ever had. In fact, it is harder than gold is, because the supply is capped at 21 million. And as we know, throughout history, all of civilizations, the hardest money has always won over the soft money. Gold beats silver. Gold has beaten everything up until now, when we have engineered a even better money store of value than even gold. Gold's inflation rate is about 1.5%, and Bitcoin's will be 0%, because the Bitcoin number doesn't change. It's always going to be capped at 21 million. And it's not just the scarcity that makes Bitcoin a very attractive monetary system. It is also extremely portable, because it's just information that's sent across the earth, and it's also infinitely divisible. And the decentralized nature of Bitcoin makes it incorruptible, unlike the current monetary system that we have now with the US dollar as the reserve currency. And what I mean by uncorruptible is there's no one entity that is able to dictate how much money is put into the system. Bitcoin removes the trust aspect of the monetary system that we have now. Many people would argue that the monetary system that we have now is actually beneficial, that inflation grows the economy and it incentivizes people to spend money, and that further grows the economy. It increases the velocity of money. But what this actually does is decrease the purchasing power of everybody that currently holds the money. And if this monetary system of having inflation was a better way, then it does not make any sense why gold beat out silver when silver had a higher inflation rate. We could mine more silver than gold. It doesn't make sense that every monetary system was beat out by the harder and more scarce money. And because it's decentralized and can't be shut down, even though politicians may argue that it's a inferior monetary policy, having no inflation or a deflationary currency as Bitcoin is, even though they may argue and try to stop it, because hard money always beats the softer money, because Bitcoin is infinitely hard and it's decentralized, it then becomes unstoppable. And even if they try to make Bitcoin, shut down Bitcoin because it's a bad monetary system, they can't. So it, in that sense, is inevitable that Bitcoin will overtake the current monetary system. And it's pretty hard to wrap your head around the global financial system switching to a singular store of value and money. But when you think about it, it's way more simple, and you just have one asset that everybody is confident that stores the value. It can't be broken by one entity, unlike currencies. nowadays. You see hyperinflation in so many different countries nowadays. You see the terrible monetary policy, and this actually makes money way more simple because you have one store of value that can be used all across the world, and it cannot be shut down or corrupted, and it is infinitely hard. And this is why Bitcoin is way superior to anything we have ever had in the past. And one more point I would like to make is the point around that Bitcoin is nothing. It doesn't have any intrinsic value like gold has. Gold has value that you can use it in jewelry, or you can use it in manufacturing. People use this argument as Bitcoin actually has no value, and the only value is what people think. And my argument is that's exactly how we do currencies nowadays. You know, the US dollar or Canadian dollar, or wherever you live, only has value because people think it has value. You know, you could argue it has some intrinsic value. You know, if you burn it, you can get some heat out of it. That's about the only intrinsic value that you have with money. And actually, the reason that gold has a floor on the price because of this intrinsic value that you can be used in jewelry is actually a negative as a monetary system. And it's a negative because you have a whole bunch of complicated supply and demand functions with these other uses of gold. You know, if jewelry becomes unpopular, then the supply will go up. Also, what happens when gold price increases, it incentivizes people to mine more gold, which further inflates the amount of gold that is out there. You know, there's so much gold that we don't even know about on Earth. But if gold really replaced the current monetary system, and it would have to like 10x in value, well, that incentivizes, it makes it 10x more profitable to mine gold, and therefore so many people will start gold mining, and this will eventually, you know, level out the price again, and gold will lose more of its value because more people mine it, which means there's a more supply, and it loses its value. So in conclusion, Bitcoin is a superior monetary system to gold because of the portability and the divisibility of it. Also, it can't be corrupted. And Bitcoin is far superior to our current monetary system, having trusted governments to ensure the zero supply of the monetary system. It is far harder than the monetary system. And Bitcoin might not have survived if we actually stayed on the gold standard, the paper or the gold-backed paper currencies, because then countries may have not as much of incentive. People might not have an incentive to flee the dollar if the supply was actually capped. You know, maybe they would continue trusting the government if it was actually gold-backed like it was in the early 1900s. And instead, central banks would have big piles of gold that was actually kept the supply fixed. But because of the terrible monetary policy in 2008, Bitcoin was created directly in response to that. And yeah, that's why Bitcoin will be and is the superior store of value and monetary system against any type of government currency. So Bitcoin is the best monetary system that we have created because of its because it is perfectly hard as a currency, which we have seen throughout history has totally beaten out and it is uncorruptible. Governments can't go in and shut it down because of the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. Even if people argue that the zero inflation or the deflationary nature of a Bitcoin economy is bad, it is good for people that hold Bitcoin, and therefore it will increase the demand of Bitcoin, and because of the decentralized nature, it will, and it is, unstoppable by any government. Thanks guys, I hope you liked my video. I'm gonna be posting another one about Bitcoin, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't seen my last video, watch my last video. Please like and subscribe, it really helps the channel out. Thanks.